The auction hall smelled like metal and fear. Bright lights burned from above as the alien crowd shouted numbers. Each cage held a slave. Shaking or crying, some begged, some screamed. Others stayed quiet, waiting for the pain to pass, one by one. The cages emptied. Strong ones were taken first. Pretty ones got higher bids. The weak and sick were sold for scrap work. Soon, only one cage was left. Inside sat a girl with silver-gray skin and dull purple eyes. Her clothes were torn, her arms thin like sticks. But the strangest thing about her was the silence. She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't look at anyone. Her eyes stayed down, her back straight, like she had turned into a statue. The auctioneer banged his staff and shouted, "Last one. Worthless stock. Half-blood trash. Take her for free. If you want." The crowd laughed. A tall alien shouted, "I wouldn't even take her to clean my claws." Another spat toward the cage and walked away. The girl didn't react, not even a blink. She was used to being hated. She expected nothing else. Then a sound made the room go quiet. Boots echoed on the metal floor, slow and steady. A human man walked forward. He wore a dark coat, and his face was hard to read. The crowd stared. Humans didn't come to this part of the galaxy often. And when they did, they didn't buy slaves. Not ones like her. He stopped in front of the cage. The girl didn't lift her head. He looked at her for a long time. Then, he raised his hand and pointed. "I want that one," he said. The auctioneer blinked, confused. "This one. You sure, human?" "No refunds," the man nodded once. Slow and firm. "Transfer the tag." The man said. The auctioneer shrugged, tapped his tablet, and opened the cage. The girl didn't move. 2 guards stepped in, ready to drag her out. "Wait," the human said. "I'll do it." He stepped into the cage himself. The crowd gasped. No one touched a slave like that. Not one marked worthless. He knelt beside her and spoke softly. "Can you walk?" The girl slowly raised her head. Her eyes met his, and for the first time in years. What? She saw something new. It wasn't anger or cruelty. It was calm. She nodded, just a little. The man stood and stepped back. She stood on shaky legs and followed him out of the cage. No chains, no collar. The aliens around them whispered, "She'll kill him in his sleep. He's lost his mind. Humans are strange." But the man didn't care. He walked with her beside him, not in front, not behind, outside. A cold wind blew across the landing yard. The man led her to a small ship. Old but well kept. Inside, it was quiet and warm. He showed her a small room with a bed, clean clothes, and food. "You're safe now," he said. "Rest, eat, sleep. If you want." She didn't move. Her hands shook. She looked at the food, then at him. What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Nothing," he said. "I bought you because no one else would." She stared, not believing him. "People don't buy things they don't want," she said. He sat down across from her. "Maybe I'm not like most people." She didn't know what to say. This wasn't how her life was supposed to go. She had been born to suffer, born to be sold. And now, a stranger had changed her world in one simple moment. She picked up the bread with shaking fingers and took a bite. Warm tears rolled down her face. She couldn't stop them. He said nothing. She sat there quietly. He didn't touch her, didn't stare, didn't ask questions. He just let her cry. And in that silence, something inside her shifted. For the first time in her life, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't invisible. Maybe she wasn't worthless, but deep inside, fear still lived. What if it was a trick? What if kindness was just another trap? She didn't trust him yet, but she would watch and listen and wait. Because something told her this human was different, and maybe, just maybe, he had saved more than her body. Maybe he had saved the part of her that still wanted to live. The sound of water dripping echoed in the small room. She sat on the bed, knees to her chest, staring at the wall. The blanket was soft, the food was warm, but her mind was still cold. She hadn't slept all night, afraid to close her eyes. The man hadn't locked the door. He hadn't spoken since giving her the room. No orders, no commands, no threats, just silence and space. She couldn't understand it. Slaves don't get freedom. Slaves don't get kindness. they get pain, chains, and hunger when the door finally slid open. She flinched. The human stood there, holding a tray of breakfast. "I knocked," he said, placing it on the table. She didn't hear the knock, or maybe she did but didn't believe it was real. He didn't come close. He didn't even look her in the eyes. "You didn't eat last night," he said. "I'll leave this here, just in case." She looked at the food but didn't touch it. Instead, she asked, "What do you want from me?" Her voice was sharper than before. She was tired of guessing, tired of fearing the trap. The man paused, then said, "I don't want anything." She laughed. Once dry and bitter, "Then why buy me?" He leaned against the doorway, calm but serious. "You weren't safe in that place." "You don't even know me," she said. "No, I don't," he replied. "But I know no one deserves to be treated like that." She stood slowly, her hands shaking. She stepped toward him, not out of trust, but to test him. 1 step, 2 steps, face to face. She looked up, daring him. "Hit me," she whispered. "Go ahead." Like the others, he didn't move. "Why would I hit you?" he asked. "Because I'm not a person, I'm property," she hissed. The man's face changed. Not with anger, but with something like pain. He spoke quietly. "No, you're not." She looked confused. "You're not property. Not to me." He continued, "I don't own you. I rescued you." The word hit her like a blow. Rescue. Rescued slaves go to work camps. Rescued slaves get sold again. But this man, he wasn't acting like a rescuer or a master. He was acting like someone who actually cared. "You think saying nice words will fix me?" she asked. "No," he said, "but it's a start." He handed her something, a data pad. "This is a blank ID form," he said. "You can write your name on it if you want." She took it slowly, staring at the glowing screen. It was empty, waiting. "You want me to name myself?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Whatever name you want." Her hands trembled. Her fingers hovered over the screen, but she couldn't type anything. She dropped it on the bed, tears burning her eyes. "I don't have a name," she said. "They took it from me." The man nodded, understanding. "You can take it back when you're ready." He turned to leave, but she stopped him. "Why are you doing this?" He looked back and answered, "Because someone once did it for me." Then he left. Closing the door softly behind him, she sat on the bed again, staring at the blank ID screen. Her reflection looked back at her from the glass, empty, tired, lost, but now there was a spark, a question she hadn't dared ask in years. Who am I if I'm not a slave? She didn't trust him yet, but something inside her had shifted. The fear was still there. But for the first time, hope stood beside it, not loud, not strong, but present. Like a small light at the end of a very long tunnel outside her room. The human sat in the ship's cockpit. He stared at a small photo, faded, worn, and torn. A girl with bright eyes and a smile was in it. She looked nothing like the alien he rescued. But the pain was the same. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I couldn't save you, but maybe I can save her." The engines hummed softly. The journey had just begun. She dreamed of chains again, but this time they weren't around her wrists. They were inside her mind, cold and tight. No matter how far she ran, she couldn't break them. When she woke up, sweat covered her face. The soft blanket felt strange. On her skin, too soft, too clean, it reminded her this wasn't a dream, but real. The man, the ship, the freedom, still real, but her heart didn't believe it yet. She stood slowly and walked to the small window outside. Stars moved slowly. As the ship drifted through space, she didn't know the name of this ship. She didn't even know the name of the human who saved her. And worst of all, she didn't know her own. She tried to remember, but all she found was silence. Names were taken from her long ago. The first owner had called her Thing. The second one had used a number, subject 42. The last one never spoke to her at all. She touched her own face gently, like seeing herself for the first time. Who was she, really? Was there anything left inside her to even name? Or had they erased her completely? A soft knock came from the door. This time, she heard it clearly. She opened the door without fear. The human stood there, holding 2 mugs of something warm. "It's called cocoa," he said. "Earth drink, sweet." She hesitated, then took the mug. It was warm in her hands, the first warmth that didn't come from a fire or sun, but from someone else. They sat together in the small lounge. No words for a while, just quiet sipping. Then he spoke. "I used to hate silence." She glanced at him. "Waiting, after I lost my daughter," he said. "The house felt too quiet." She watched his eyes, not his lips. There was pain there. Old but deep. She recognized it because it lived inside her too. "What happened to her?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "She was taken during a raid," he said. "I couldn't find her. Never did. I'm sorry," she whispered. He nodded, but didn't look away. "When I saw you in that cage," he said, "I saw the same. Emptiness, and I couldn't walk away again." She wanted to say something, anything, but her throat felt tight. He placed the datapad on the table between them. "It's still blank," he said, "but it's yours." She looked at it again, the empty name box still waiting. She reached out, touched the screen. Her fingers hovered over the keypad, then slowly, she typed. The letters glowed softly in the dark. Liara read it aloud. "Liara," she nodded, a little unsure. "I don't know if it's real," she said, "but it feels." "Right, it's real now," he said, "because you chose it." Her heart beat faster. She had a name now. Not given by a master, not branded into her skin, but chosen by her own hand. Lyra. She repeated it in her mind, over and over. It felt strange and beautiful, like sunlight after endless storm. "Lyra," he said again, smiling a little. She looked at him and asked, "What's your name?" He blinked, surprised. "No one's asked me that in a long time." She waited, curious now. "Jonas," he said. "My name is Jonas." "Jonas," she whispered. It sounded strong, like someone who kept promises. They sat there, 2 broken souls in a quiet ship, one learning how to be a person, the other trying to heal from a past he couldn't change. In that silence, something new began to grow. Trust not full yet, but starting. Lyra held the datapad to her chest. She had a name, a room, a warm drink, and someone who saw her as more than a slave. She still had scars, still had nightmares, but now she also had something else. A chance to become herself again. Lyra watched Jonas from the shadows of the corridor. He didn't know she was there. He sat alone in the cockpit, staring at a small photo in his hand. He never smiled when he looked at it, only sighed. Every day he fixed something. The ship's lights, the food system, the outer panels always busy, but every night he came to that seat, held that photo, and whispered something she couldn't hear. It was like he was haunted, not by ghosts, but by memories. She had learned his name. She had chosen her own. But Jonas was still a mystery, kind, quiet, patient, but hiding something deep. One evening, while he worked on the engine, she asked, "Who is she?" He paused, not looking up. "The girl in the photo," she added. Jonas wiped his hands with a cloth and sat down. "My daughter," he said softly. "She was taken when she was 9. Raiders attacked our colony." Lyra felt her throat tighten. "She looks like you," she said. He smiled a little, but his eyes stayed sad. "She had my stubbornness," he said, "and her mother's heart." Lyra sat beside him, quiet. "Did you ever find her?" He shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "Only ashes and silence." They didn't speak for a while. Just the soft hum of the ship filled the space. Then he looked at her, not with pity, but something else. "You remind me of her," he said. Lyra blinked, surprised. "I don't look like her." She said, "No, but your eyes." He said, "They don't lie. They've seen pain. And they're still open." Lyra didn't know how to reply. No one had ever looked into her eyes before. Not as a person, not as someone who mattered. Just as a tool, or something broken. Jonas stood and grabbed a small metal cube. He handed it to her. "What is it?" she asked. "Memory keeper," he said. "Speak into it, and it saves your words." "Why give it to me?" he asked, confused. "Because memories matter," he said, "even the painful ones." "Especially those," he replied. That night, Lyra sat on her bed holding the cube in her hands. She pressed the button, and a soft light blinked. She didn't know what to say at first. But then the words came, slowly. "My name is Lyra." She whispered, "I was born in a mining station. My mother disappeared when I was 5. I don't remember her face. I was sold when I was 7. They gave me a number, not a name. I forgot how to cry. I forgot how to dream." The cube blinked softly. Saving her voice, she held it close to her chest and closed her eyes. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Jonas never asked her to speak. He never forced her to share, but every night she recorded a little more. A story, a memory, even just a thought. And slowly, the silence between them began to break. They laughed once, over burnt food. They fixed a broken chair together. They even played an old Earth song she didn't understand but liked. Jonas didn't treat her like a guest or a slave. He treated her like something in between, something unsure, still healing, still learning, and that was enough for now. But in the back of her mind, one thought never left. Why did Jonas come to that slave market at all? It was deep in alien space, far from any human colony. He said he came to trade, but he bought nothing except her. One night she asked, "Why were you really there?" Jonas looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "I was searching for someone who—" She asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood up and walked away. And for the first time, he didn't say goodnight. Lyra sat there in silence. Her heart was heavy. She trusted him. But something was hidden, something important. Something close to her, in her room. She turned on the memory cube again. But this time, her voice shook as she whispered, "Maybe Jonas is not just saving me. Maybe he's saving himself too." The ship floated near a silent moon. Its engines were off, running dark. Jonas said they needed to rest, recharge, hide, but something in his eyes told Lyra this place wasn't safe. She stared through the window at the stars. They looked calm. But her heart was not. Her fingers gripped the memory cube tighter than usual. She didn't know why, but the silence tonight felt wrong. Jonas had checked the ship 3 times. He tightened every bolt, double-checked every door. He said it was routine, but his voice lacked calm, and his movements were too fast. "Stay in your room tonight," he told her. "Don't open the door, no matter what you hear." She wanted to ask why. But the way he looked at her serious, afraid, made her nod. She sat in her small bed, eyes wide open. The room was dark, except for the blinking blue light on the memory cube. She tried to sleep, but couldn't. Something deep inside her felt ready to run. Then came the sound, a soft metal creak, followed by a low hum, not from the ship but from outside. She held her breath, listening. A thump echoed through the corridor. Then another, louder, footsteps, but not Jonas's. Heavy, fast, not human. Lyra jumped from the bed and pressed her back to the wall. Her heart beat like a drum. She remembered. These sounds, from the mines, from the auction cells, from the nightmares. The door to her room stayed locked, but she heard voices on the other side. Alien voices, cruel and sharp, one said. "She's here somewhere. The humans stole her. Stole her, not rescued, not saved, to them." She was still property, still a thing. A loud crash came from the front of the ship. A blaster fired, followed by shouting. She recognized Jonas's voice, angry, wild, protective. But then came silence. No more shouting, no more footsteps. Just quiet, too quiet. Then bang. Her door burst open. Jonas stumbled in, blood on his arm. His shirt was torn. His breathing heavy, but his eyes were full of fire. "Run," he said. "Out the back hatch. Now, but you," she tried to speak. "I'll hold them off," he shouted. "Go." She didn't argue. He tossed her a small black box. "Take this. It has your ID, your records, everything. Find the human station on Lyra's moon." She paused, shocked that moon. "Has my name," Jonas smiled through pain, "because I named it after you?" Then he pushed her toward the escape hatch. She turned once, looked into his eyes. They didn't lie. They never had, even now. With danger all around, his eyes only said one thing. "Live." She ran, heart pounding, through the narrow hatch. Down the emergency tube. Behind her, The ship shook from another blast, but she didn't stop. Her feet hit the cold surface of the moon, thin air, low gravity, but freedom, the stars. Above blinked, but she didn't look up. She looked back to the ship at the man who saved her. Then came a flash bright and terrible. The ship exploded in the sky. She screamed, falling to her knees, Jonas. Tears poured from her eyes, her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, all the pain rushed back, the chains, the numbers, the silence. But then her hand tightened around the black box, and the cube in her pocket still blinked. He gave her everything he could before the end, her name, her freedom. Her future. Lyra stood slowly, her body shaking. The cold wind blew across the moon's surface, but she didn't feel weak anymore. She was alive, because he chose her, and she would not let that sacrifice be forgotten. Not now, not ever, somewhere. Out there, others were still in chains, and now one of them was free, and her name was Lyra? Lyra? Didn't remember falling asleep? She only remembered waking up under a broken sky. Smoke drifted in the air above the moon's surface. The wreckage of Jonas's ship lay scattered behind her like a grave. For hours she didn't move. She just sat, staring at the black box in her lap. His blood was still on it. His voice still echoed in her ears. Run, he had said. He had stayed behind so she could live. And now she was alone, truly alone. But grief couldn't last forever. Not here. Not with danger still in the air. The aliens who attacked the ship might still be hunting, and Lyra knew what they did to runaways. She stood, slowly. Every part of her body wanted to fall back down, but something inside her said no. She couldn't stop. Not now. Not after everything. I am not a slave, she whispered. I am not property. I am not worthless. Her voice was soft but firm. She started walking. Jonas had told her to head toward the northern cliffs. There was an old outpost there hidden, half buried in the rock, if she made it. Maybe she could send a signal. The moon's surface was harsh. Thin air made it hard to breathe. Sharp rocks tore at her feet. But she kept going. Every step felt. Heavier memories of the auction cage flashed in her mind, but she pushed them away. That girl, the one who stayed silent in a cage, was gone now. Hours passed, maybe more. She lost track of time. Then, at last, she saw something. A metal door half buried in the cliffs. She ran to it, using her last strength. The panel beside. It flickered weakly. She touched the black box to it. It beeped, scanned, then unlocked with a click. The door slid open slowly. Inside was dark, cold, empty. But it was shelter, and maybe, just maybe, safety. She stepped inside. Collapsed against the wall, for the first time since Jonas died. She let herself cry again, not out of weakness, but out of release. Because even the strong need to break sometimes. A soft hum filled the room. Lights flickered on, a voice echoed. From a nearby console, user ID confirmed Jonas Gray. Lyra gasped. The console lit up. Showing his face, a pre-recorded message began to play. Lyra, if you're seeing this, then I didn't make it. Her hand flew to her mouth. She stared at the screen, frozen. Jonas's voice continued. But that doesn't mean the end. It means a beginning. I saved this place for you. He said, there's food here, water, and files. Everything you need to survive. Train the system to respond to your name. You are not forgotten, and you are not alone. Her tears came again, but this time they were different. They came with warmth. With love, with hope. I believe in you, Lyra, the recording said. You are more than what they made you. You are free, and you will decide what happens next. The screen went dark. Lyra stood up slowly. She looked around at the small shelter. It wasn't much, but it was hers now. She found supplies, maps, and something unexpected, a coded list of names, other slaves, marked as missing or hidden by traffickers. Jonas had been tracking them before he died. Lyra stared at the list. Dozens of names, dozens of chances to do what Jonas had done for her. She had the data, the location, the choice. She could stay here, survive quietly, or she could fight for herself for them, for the man who gave everything to show her she was not worthless. She reached for the memory cube, pressed record. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I was born in chains, but I will not die in them. I am alive." She continued, "I am free, and I am going to make sure no one else is left behind." They called her a ghost, a whisper traveling from world to world. A girl who once lived in a cage, now known only by a name Lyra. Some believed she was a myth. Others swore they had seen her just once, in the shadows, stealing back children, breaking slave collars, burning the auction houses to ash, but no one could ever prove it. Lyra stood at the edge of the cliff, on a green world far from war. Beneath her, fields of wild grass danced in the wind, behind her. The sun rose slowly, warm and golden. Her hands held the memory cube, now old and scratched. It had been 2 years since Jonas died, 2 years since she swore she would never let another be forgotten. And in that time, she kept her promise. Name by name, life by life, she rescued them. But it had changed her, not just outside, but inside. She no longer flinched at loud noises. She no longer waited for chains. She had become something else. Not just a survivor, not just a fighter, but a leader. Lyra walked through a hidden village. Tucked in the trees, dozens of alien children ran past her, laughing. They wore no chains, no marks, only bright eyes and free smiles. This was what Jonas had dreamed of. He just hadn't lived to see it. In the center of the village was a statue. Rough, simple, but full of meaning. A human man holding a small girl's hand. The plaque read, "To the one who saw her not as a slave, but as someone worth saving." Every time Lyra passed it, she paused. She didn't cry anymore now. She smiled because his story didn't. Indifference lived through her one night. While checking supply codes in the old outpost system, she found a strange message buried deep in the files. It wasn't labeled, just a number. Locked with a voice pattern, she played it, expecting nothing. But when the voice came through, she froze. It was him. Jonas, alive, or something like it. "Lyra," the message said. "If you're hearing this, then the backup plan worked. I uploaded a part of myself into the ship's emergency AI. I don't know if I survived, but I know you did." Her hands shook. He continued, "I knew they might come for me. But I also knew if I could save even one, it would be worth it. I chose you because everyone else had already given up. You weren't worthless, Lyra. You were just waiting to become who you truly are, and you did. I'm proud of you." She stared at the screen, silent. The light from the message faded, but the warmth stayed, like he was still watching, still guiding the next day. Lyra stood before the children she had saved. Some had scales, some had fur, some had metal implants from the mines. But they all had one thing in common: freedom. She looked at them and said, "I was once a slave, forgotten, broken, left behind. A human bought me not because I was useful, but because I was alive. He taught me something simple, that no one is worthless, and now I teach it to you," she said. "Not with words, but with the life we build together. No cages, no collars, no fear. Only freedom," they cheered, their voices echoing through the trees, and in that sound she heard more than joy. She heard the future, one she helped create. Later that evening, she sat by the fire, staring up at the stars. A small metal piece rested in her hand, part of Jonas's old communicator. She whispered, "I kept your promise." A soft wind blew through the camp, leaves rustled, and somewhere a voice seemed to whisper back, "So did I." And just like that, the story of a girl who was left behind became the legend of the one who led others forward. Not a slave, not a ghost, but a human soul, freed by another and never forgotten.